What's up, everybody? This is Ben, and on today's episode of Ben Pretends to Know More About Sound Design He Does, we are going to talk about EBM leads and basses. We are going to talk about some cool FM stuff that we can do, going to talk about some cool oscillators we've got, going to talk about some neat uses of the mod matrix, and I think it's going to be fun. We're going to make some cool stuff, so let's get into it. Alright, so thanks to Neo Luddite for suggesting this topic. I had a lot of fun researching this. This isn't necessarily a genre that I'm super proficient in, but it's really cool. The sound design in the genre is really cool. It's got lots of like industrial type of sounds, some intense stuff. If you're not familiar, EBM, electronic body music, it's like sort of post-punk industrial EDM type of feel. It's very cool, very fun. I'm really enjoying it. So without further ado, this is what we're going to see at the end of the video. And I hope you liked that. If you did, stick around. Even if you didn't, you might learn something, so I would recommend sticking around anyway. But let's get into it. So to start off, we are going to make a new project. New. I like to start from a new project so that it's easy for everyone to follow along, I hope. All right, so we've got an initial tone here. Sounds like we're familiar with. Now, again, like I said, I'm not a super expert on EBM, so I looked up some tutorials that other people did about how to make EBM with other synthesizers, and this is what I got. So the first thing, a lot of the tutorials recommend we start with a wavetable. They use Massive or Serum, something like that. We obviously don't have that on the MC-101, but what we do have is some really interesting oscillators. So I'm going to go Shift Edit, and we're going to go to the partial menu. And then I'm just going to come to Oscillator 1. I'm actually only going to edit Oscillator 1 for now. And there's some pretty neat PCM ones. There's a lot in the PCM libraries. There's some, 1300 or whatever. But in this PCM sync category, there's like 40 something, and some of them are very, very useful for this that we want to do. So, all I did was I watched people use Serum, which is a VST that uses wavetables, to make EBM sounds, and then I tried to sort of match the starting sounds that they have with the sounds that we have on the MC-101. So some of the ones that I found were these, like the E and I formant ones that sounded pretty cool. And you might want to change what octave you're in, depending on which oscillator you're using. So that one sounds okay. The I one, I found though, my favorites for this were, these Bad Axe L and R ones sounded really good for this stuff. Actually, I'm gonna raise the volume here at least so we can see more on the oscilloscope. So yeah, the Bad Axe L and R both sounded good for this, as did, I thought, lead wave 2, I think? Yeah, wave 2. Lead wave 2, you might want to drop an octave to get that nice sound. So yeah, let's go back. We're going to use Bad Axe L for the moment. And we're going to bring it up to this octave here. So that's already like a pretty solid starting sound, I think. Again, you watch their tutorials. This is pretty good for a starting sound for this sort of music. So now we want to give it some oomph, some movement, and some like excitement happening. So we are going to come to our envelope page. I'm going to turn on ADSR mode. And then, let's see, we're going to give it some filter. We're going to give it some amplitude enveloping. So I'm going to lower sustain like around there, lower decay. Gives it this sharp attack you can see over here. Okay, and then I also, for the purposes of playing and recording this stuff, I like to add some release. Something like that. Sounding all right. Now I'm gonna switch back to turning off ADSR mode so we can edit the pitch envelope. So I want to give it just a little bit of pitch movement as we get into here. So pitch depth, let's set the pitch depth. So if we have a negative pitch depth, it goes like up. I can lower the, so the important thing, I want to set sustain to 0, because then that way we're gonna come down to it or up to it, but the sustain will be at 0. If the sustain is negative or positive, then when you let go, since we have the release going on, it gets a little wonky and you gotta change the release on the pitch envelope. But if we just set sustain to 0, then we don't have to worry about that. But okay, so now I wanna go depth positive a bit. Turn down attack, down decay. So now it's coming down to down to the pitch that we're aiming at, and we can change how fast it goes with the decay parameter. That's pretty good, I think. The next thing that we're gonna do, I'm gonna turn ADSR mode back on, and we're gonna adjust the filter envelope. But first, to do that, we're gonna turn the cutoff to something lower than full open. And we can think of where we set the cutoff as like the end point. And then we turn the envelope up, and the envelope then will push the cutoff up and bring it back down. So all we gotta do is come to the filter then, lower the sustain, which is where it will end up. And then we can lower the attack and put decay somewhere. Get that bite, however much we want. And I'm gonna give this a little release too. So we got some stuff happening. So this sounds pretty good, I think, just from the start, but we can do more with it. So one thing that I've found that's super, super cool is to take LFO1 and set it, we can set it to sine, and then give it some pitch depth. So the LFO will be impacting the pitch. Right? Okay. That's simple enough. But now, if we increase the rate, we're starting to get into like industrial FM-y type of sounds, which is exactly what we want here. So, I'm going to set the rate around there, and that sounds cool, but we want to modulate this now. So, what we can do, we can lower the pitch depth back to 0, so it's not impacting pitch at all. But then we can take an envelope that we're already using for the amplitude or the filter or even the pitch, and we can map it in our mod matrix to push the amount that the LFO is impacting the pitch up at the beginning of the sound, so it gives it that real like aggressive metallic-y sort of transient that we're looking for. So let's see. So we set the source from, say, so these, if it's not clear, this is the pitch envelope, this is the time variant filter envelope, or the filter envelope, and the time variant amplitude envelope, or the amplitude envelope. So let's try with the filter, and we're gonna set it to pitch LFO1, which is the amount the LFO1 is affecting the pitch, and we're gonna raise the depth. And that sounds really cool. I'm gonna lower the depth some. And it helps, it just gives that extra bite to the beginning of it, right? So that's without. And that sounds cool. So what did I said I picked the filter. What if I picked the amplitude? They're pretty similar. I really like the way this sounds. So you can hear already, like that sounds pretty cool for this sort of thing. But we've got more. There's more we can do. There's always more that we can do. This is the MC-101. There's so much we can do. So the first thing more that we can do is just add another oscillator, because we can blend these together. We can do more with it. So let's go. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to turn off partial 1, no sound. I'm going to turn on partial 2, and I am going to bring up another PCM sync. I used Bad Axe L for the first one. So maybe we do R, or even we could do, let's see what happens when we do lead wave 2. So I don't want to have to shift everything down, so I am going to shift the coarse tune of this oscillator down. So then with oscillator 1, cool. I'm going to turn oscillator 1 off for the moment. So we can do the same stuff with oscillator 2, right? We're going to turn off partial edit 1 and turn on partial edit 2. And now, I'm going to do these completely different, and we'll see if it sounds good. I think sometimes it sounds good if not all the settings are exactly the same, but you can edit them together if you just turn on both partials. So if we turn off, so just turn editing partial 1, we can do the amp envelope. Little release again. Too much release. You don't want it to blend over. It helps to me, at least because like when I'm playing it instead of programming it, I like to have a little release to. I think that sounds good, and it feels good to play it. Maybe is even more important. So then I'm going to do the same type of deal with the filter. We're going to lower the cutoff some. Oh, don't need resonance. You hear when I let go? It like cuts off abruptly. That's why I like to have some release. The envelope release you can put up higher, because the amplitude release will take care of fading the sound out. But yeah, so then lower the sustain, raise the decay. Cool. Let's go. We can set, whoops, I jumped too far by accident. We can set the ADSR to on. Oh, I meant to set it off. So sometimes I think the ADSR mode is only changed when you edit it with partial 1. Like if partial 1 edit is not on, the ADSR mode on or off doesn't do anything. I think it's because it's like a global setting. But something to be aware of. Now I can do the pitch though for partial 2. Change the pitch depth. Lower the attack, lower the decay, so sustain to like 0. Same way we did. If you want, this is like how you make drum sounds. I don't know if anyone cares or if you knew that already. But you can make things like real clicky, and that's like how a lot of synths make drum sounds with a pitch envelope. It's kind of cool, but we want it a little bit higher. A little less depth. Yeah, it sounds a little bit like laser-ish E, which I don't necessarily want. So we can lower the depth a little, just tweak the parameters so it sounds good. That sounds pretty cool, I think. So now we can do the same thing with LFO1. Maybe this time though, we want like a weird different wave. Maybe a square, maybe like a I don't know. What do you think is gonna sound good? I don't know. What about a trapezoid? That's weird. That sounds pretty cool. Oh yeah, that's weird. I like it. Okay, so now I'm going to lower the pitch depth though. And then we are going to come back to the matrix. We are going to send... What do you think? Well, maybe filter envelope. to pitch LFO1, depth high, maybe depth lower. That sounds all right, I think. Maybe I want to increase the rate a little bit more if I can. I can't. You can see what different waves sound like. Maybe since it's so short, we're not hearing a ton. Square sounds like dirtier. I think that sounds pretty cool. Now let's see what happens with oscillator 1 turned back on. I think that sounds pretty cool. But still the MC-101. We don't have to be done yet if we don't want to be. We can put a little reverb on. I think that usually sounds good here. That's maybe too much. Cool. And we still have multi-effect. Now, there's a lot of different stuff you can do with multi-effects here. You can do choruses, you can do the exciter, you can do saturation. Let's hear. I mean, that sounds pretty cool to me. There's another, I really like this. I was experimenting with a bunch of stuff before. This SDD 320, which is technically a chorus, but I've heard it called the chorus for people who don't like choruses. And it has a little bit of like an EQ boost you can add. I mean, I think that sounds super cool. Yeah, you can mess with it. Mess around. You can also, there's also the saturator often sounds good on this stuff, I think. If we come over here, and you can, obviously there's a ton of options you can do here. But that's got a lot of oomph. You also, if you just hit shift and the track, you can come to, you can turn the EQ on. You can do a lot of times if you really like, this sounds good if you bring like the highs out more a little. Like that's really cooking, right? So yeah, so I mean, that's loud, right? We don't need it that loud maybe. But that's what I got. Then maybe, yeah, and then I like that how it sounds down there too. So yeah, so play around. I mean, I think it's really fun. I'm gonna put it in like something sort of useful real quick. I listened to a good bit of EBM while we were working on this. I like this kit. Oh, not this kit. Let me turn the volume down a little. Cool. Kind of like that gated reverb. I was listening to one album that had that. So let's do that. That's fine. This is just a demonstration. Let's do something like this. I'm going to turn the tempo up a little bit. And then we're going to do our hi-hat thing. Cool. I'm going to change the multi-effect. What did I have on here? I think I like the saturator a little better for this particular patch. Made a bunch of these this week. Then, cool. Now I might actually, I'm gonna come back to the partial editor, and on both of them, I might lower the release a little bit. Actually, you know what? I might just be able to. Yeah, we're used to that. I can come in here to the filter, and we can, might just want to lower the cutoff a little. Because we still have the envelope, right, pushing. So the envelope was up really high. The envelope depth was up high. That's why this cutoff knob wasn't doing much. But now we can control it quite a bit with this. So if we go like this, So yeah, I mean, I like doing that. You can do other octaves. You got all sorts of automation that you can do. We got all sorts of, you know, movement you can do. And yeah, I mean, I hope that's really it. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it was useful. I hope that you maybe learned some new techniques. And I really, really, really think this is super fun. And there's just so much you can do. That's only 2 of the partials. You can always do the other partials. You can always use the cross-mod or cross-mod 2 engines to add even more FM stuff into it. All sorts of PCM samples to explore. You can even load in your own like single cycle waveforms if you want to. I might do a video on that too. But yeah, that's it. I hope you had fun. Thanks so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time. I almost forgot to mention this project. I'll just put this project up on my Patreon. It'll go up on time this time, I promise. So if you want it, check it out. But you really don't need it. You can just make this from scratch. Just follow along the video. I haven't done anything that I didn't show you. So yeah, thanks a lot.